James.
Hey,
what are
Georgia.
you doing?
I'm just exercising on the bike, doing a nice, long, slow, easy aerobic activity.
But didn't you read about HIIT, high intensity interval training? Don't you think you get better results if you did that?
I don't think so. Well, that sounds like a myth we need to bust.
So James, what is high intensity interval training?
It's not an easy term to answer, which is a problem. I think today it's harder to answer than it was 10 years ago. And that's an issue. The proposed idea is that you work hard for a short period of time and you rest, possibly an incomplete rest period, and then you do more hard work. In the literature, in science for the understanding of HIIT, it's also, I'm not going to say super broad, but it's quite broad in its, so you got to read between the lines for what gets pulled from evidence, et cetera. But that's the proposed idea. Go really hard, short break interval, and go hard again.
Yeah, in preparing for this, I did a little research online to see what publications were saying about HIIT training, and the typical definition was, 100% effort, rest for a short period, 100% high intense effort again.
Yeah.
So I think we should actually see what that looks like with a trained individual. Like what actually happens if you make someone go 100%, rest a short period, and then go again. And a popular way to do that we see in a lot of gyms is Tabata style, so 20 on, 10 off for 8 rounds.
Yeah, well, let's see Amanda do it for a couple of sets.
Yeah, meet us in the gym lab with Amanda.
A hard 20 seconds, rest 10 seconds, and do it repetitive, times. That is the defined aspect of what high intensity interval training would be.
Yeah.
Some of the bigger, if I may, some of the bigger things that I think are the issues that are inside of it, and why we want to bust this myth of high intensity being this, the enlightened method for fitness for the rest of someone's life, is that number one, we have to remember that the fitness industry created high intensity interval training as a concept. It didn't come up as like this need through research, like, oh, this is very interesting. We created it because it filled the void of us being able to do stuff in a very short period of time. Because to say the opposite, that people should earn the right to walk for 90 minutes, couldn't be sold inside of the fitness complex. So we cherry pick and jump on this idea of high intensity interval training, and we create it that way. Secondly, it wasn't well thought out for its carryover for the concept of it as to how this applies to living long. And what you saw Amanda do, the first thing that I saw in it, even from the research, was that there wasn't a lot of conversation on the actual output of each interval. Like, what was the person actually doing in each interval? So if you're really elite and you're super aerobic, you will get a big metabolic effect after the intervals, and your work output will be the same the whole time. And then if you connect all these fantastic things that come from that, you can see how it's very popular and ends up in Time magazine for the local consumer. But if you put, I would say 99.7% of every other human through those intentions of hard work, short rest period, the power drops per set. So no one wanted to spend time on that aspect of saying, well, what's the benefits of doing work repetitively that's unsustainable, right? And then this is where we go. This is our...
Are there benefits of doing work unsustainably for someone who's trained for health and longevity?
Theoretically, no.
I add that note.
Yeah, theoretically, you know, just the concept of unsustainable work, and this is what you know, the fitness complex has wrapped their hands around, is this metabolic effect. But what's connected to a metabolic effect is sensationalism and entertainment and flamboyance and drama, right? And sacrifice. So you can see how if we wrap our hands around that, the entire complex can market that to a public to be like, you can't be someone by participating in this sacrificial work that's really hard. Because if you're not going really hard, it's not worth anything. This is what we sold. So there are benefits metabolically. So I mean, when you experience it, there actually is a significant metabolic effect that comes in the acute period, okay? The problem with it is that we as humans adapt to things. So over time, you will adapt to that response, and then you're going to need to do something harder. And then eventually our resources get burnt out where we can't do repetitive high-intensity work. And so therefore, the unsustainable practice of intervals becomes unsustainable behaviors. This is the issue as to why unsustainable stuff is not beneficial for living long, because I would assume living long means that we want to be consistent.
Yes, sustainable
Okay.
behaviors are going to be important.
If that's the case, you probably want to come in here every day. And if not every day, every second day. You know, and if your argument is, well, that's not what I learned or that's not what's sold, that doesn't mean that's correct.
What is correct for that person that is striving for sustainability?
Easy absolute strength training, slow absolute strength training, and easy aerobic work over and over for the rest of their life.
It's not very sexy.
I know, we keep coming back to that, and I think we need to be stronger on that point of reflection. I think we do need to be. I think we need to lean into deeper benefits of that. So you and I and everyone needs to go further with that point of like, well, what do you mean by resistance training and easy aerobic work? This is well explained in CCP, not a sales for CCP, but it's not that complex. You progressively challenge someone in patterns of movement with resistance training that they can do in movements that they can perform every second day for the rest of their life. And now you have this embedded thing inside of it. Every time you're doing it, you're like, I want to do this forever. Therefore, I should be doing these patterns with this kind of contraction and this kind of thing. And then the conditioning aspect, it's actually a simpler story, but you just try to get really good at being aerobic. So everything you do should be focused on you progressing to become as aerobic as possible.
And for the coach that's watching this, how do they know that their client is being aerobic and not being unsustainable?
Yeah, good question. The most simple way is for the coach to watch them perform the actual task. And there are measures that you can use of steady state phenomenon of their work that they're doing. So any work that they're doing as what should be the architecture around what that should look like, it should have a sustainable vision, and it should feel sustainable, and the intention should be sustainable, and the work should be sustainable. So if someone's doing a piece of work that's this long, this time constrained 30 minutes, whatever they're doing, it should look like this. Not like this, not like this. Not like this, not like, no, this, yeah, not like that, no, like this, right? Or if they're doing intervals, right? This period of time, break, this period of time, this period, it should look like this. This, repeatable, either intraset, that means inside the working period, or interset, inside of those working periods. And of course, that can get more complex to determine how to process it, but yeah, that's what it should look like and how coaches can measure it.
And if we have someone like Amanda who is doing, 20 seconds of high intensity work followed by 10 seconds of rest, and we're seeing that drop off in her power that happens, like we've talked about the negatives of that. Yeah. If she is doing hard intervals, is there an appropriate period of rest that would allow her to repeat that interval? And is it 10 seconds?
The rest that's required for the power output per person is very individualized based upon the essence of the individual. So out of 1,000 people, there's 1,000 different recovery periods for 20 seconds of their optimal work. Think about that. So there's no booklet that says it's 340 rest for 20 seconds of work to get repeatable work. It's 1,000 different versions. And the reason why we know that is not just through, just working with people, because we have seen that, but it's understanding the complexity in humans and the individual aspect of them and growth and development. A 16-year-old expresses power over 20 seconds differently than a 65-year-old who's untrained. See what I'm saying? So you can't just use time as a phenomenon to determine how much rest period, right? The person complicates that, but it also should liberate us as coaches to go, wow, that should be very individualized. Yes, exactly. So for Amanda, in most cases, in a true power output of 20 seconds, just to give you an N=1, it would probably take her 9 minutes to recover after a true hard 20 seconds to repeat the same work in 20 seconds, right? And to be able to repeat that 2, 3, 4, 5 times, she probably needs around 9 minutes. And I'll just leave it at that to get some people thinking about it can't possibly be that. And the fact that you don't believe that just shows that you need to do a little bit deeper work in practice on understanding true output and true repeatable work.
Yeah, I think a really important takeaway from this is what is actually high intensity interval training is not what is happening in a lot of the gyms around the world, or what is happening in those high intensity interval training scenarios is that power is decreasing and it's not being done at a sustainable rate. So either expression is not there or the work is unsustainable, and ultimately that's not going to be really getting the results that coaches are looking for their clients, is it?
If your goals are consistency. If you're looking for a hard workout, they're going to get that. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's why high intensity interval training is so loosely defined, is because it offers this mediocrity in terms of conversation around it. You see, you just get drowned out in all these arguments that are useless, and you're 10 years deep in scientific evidence of it, and you haven't come up with anything that's actually clinically significant to your audience. Why? Because you haven't defined what long-term success is. And you and I have defined it. It's consistency. So you can go and try it, right? Try it. Like, try high intensity interval for 2 years or 3 years with your clients. They leave you, or they're burnt out, or they don't gain success anymore. So that's why I'm saying we're just kind of trying to make coaches critically think about, to your point, defining what truly is high intensity interval training, what's its purpose, if anything, and that is all defined on how you create this success and how you want to deliver that to a client. And we believe that success is having real great cognition, moving and doing anything you want to do in this world, and being very satisfied and content at the end of your days. And if you reverse engineer that, high intensity interval training has no part in the fitness experience.
James, you've convinced me.
Great.
I'm going to skip the HIIT intervals. I'm going to join you on that.
Let's do some long, slow bike rides.
Yeah, it sounds beautiful. Out in the sunshine today.
That's right.
I'd call that a Mythbusted.